Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in today's episode, we have our finale episode, which is kind of unfortunate based on how it ended in last episode, but I think this episode is going to be a lot of fun because we're going to be looking at basically everybody on our team's career stats. We're also going to look through the entire NHL and seeing what players are still out there that used to play with us or are a former draft pick of our team. And it will also look obviously at the record book across the entire NHL, and we'll also induct our channel Hall of Fame members, which there's like 3 of them. So it's going to be exciting to show you guys who end up winning that, unless you guys decided to look back at the poll constantly after you voted on it. But with that said, let's get into the one and only comment we got in the last episode, and then we'll probably get into all this recap stuff because it might take a bit, so I kind of want to get into it kind of as fast as possible. So that one and only comment we got from last episode is from Saturn Otaku, who says, "That's not the way to end this franchise mode, but at least you were able to get 1 cup out of it still. Still, it was highly entertaining to watch, and I'm very much looking forward to the start of the Throwback Series." And I'm looking forward to the Throwback Series as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun because I've not simulated too much with my 2010 build before. Like, I think I simulated like 2 seasons in a test run, and I've never simulated full 25 years. So if we could do a full 25 years with my 2010 franchise mode, that'd be interesting, just so we could kind of see almost like up to current day NHL basically what was happening in 2025 basically in that universe, like what teams were good, see how close it is to real life. Obviously there wouldn't be like the Seattle Kraken, the Vegas Golden Knights, that type of thing, but it could still be some interesting results. So looking forward to that when we get to it. But with that said, let's get into everybody's career stats on our team first, and then I think we'll look at everybody around the league to see where everybody is in terms of team still, because there is definitely some former players of ours out there. I'm just not too sure on who is still kicking at this point in time. We'll also probably at that point do the channel Hall of Famers, and then we'll look at like the record book and such. So let's see what we got on our roster to take a look at, because we got a lot of guys to go through in terms of career stats. Some guys in the AHL too we'll look at briefly, but a lot of the guys in the AHL never played an NHL game, so it's not going to matter too much at this point in time. So let me actually remove my face from the screen so you guys can kind of see a little bit better in depth in terms of the player stats, so that way if you guys wanted to keep note of player stats and all that stuff, you could. We're going to start off here with Eugene Dunham, who was a former 3rd-round pick of ours, and he's our best player on our team right now in terms of production and overall. As you can see, he's been a pretty solid player here in this franchise mode so far. He's played only 726 career games by the age of 29. 631 points is pretty good for where he was drafted. His best season coming with 89 points back in 2044, it looks like. But yeah, he was a rookie for us quite late into the series in 2041, so he hasn't gotten to play that many years yet, but I think he still would be a pretty good player for at least another 6-7 years before he might decide to retire. So there's his regular season numbers, and then from a playoff perspective, he's also been pretty good. 81 points in 115 games, and obviously he does have... He doesn't have a Stanley Cup win, I guess, technically, actually. I was thinking he would have won a Stanley Cup with us, but he was part of that next generation team after we had won the Stanley Cup back in 2038. He does have 1 award in his cabinet, which is interesting. It's a Lady Byng he won just last season, so shout out to him for winning that Lady Byng. I guess he was very disciplined last year. Let's see, 12 penalty minutes, yeah. He was pretty disciplined. This year he had 37, so he's definitely not the most aggressive type of player in the world, which is interesting because he is a 2-way forward. You'd think he'd take maybe a bit more penalties, but he's very, very disciplined. So there is Eugene Dunham, maybe a future captain of this team at once Kolarz retires or something like that. Next up, actually, let's just go forwards to start, so that way we could get to like McLeod afterwards. But next up, we have Maximillian Copitz. Maximillian Copitz, the German. I think he was German, right? Yes, the German, I thought so. Former 5th-round pick of ours back 11 years ago, so a pretty good steal again in this franchise mode. And he's been getting better as of late, too, the last few years, because he started off being more of like a 30-point guy, but he was also on like a third-line type of role. But the last few years, he's really started to find his offense. 2 50-point seasons, a 71-point season with 30 goals, and then this season dropped back down to 60, but still 60 points is pretty solid, and it's not like he's getting overpaid or anything. 30 points in the playoffs in 77 games is a little bit lackluster, so his playoff performances weren't the best on the team, but he did still at least provide some offense occasionally, so pretty solid player. Also fairly disciplined too, because one season only 4 penalty minutes in 82 games, which is probably pretty tough for a guy that's an offensive player. So shout out to him. Aside from that, we do also have I think he's another German, Jurgen Hansen, and more than likely based on the name. Yep, another German on the team. He was a former second-round pick of ours back in 2039, so just a decade ago. He's been a player that I haven't utilized probably super well because he was in the AHL for 1 year. He came back up to the NHL, got a much elevated role, and he was very good in it. So maybe if we would have not played him in the AHL here and not used him in a bottom six role, maybe he could have become a much better player. 58 points last season in 82 games. And then from a playoff perspective, you could see 13 points in 55 career playoff games. Actually, a pretty good playoffs in the AHL last year, so maybe he could have done more for us this year, but unfortunately he didn't. Also, I guess I could probably actually just leave my face on the screen because it doesn't really get in the way of anything too much here. Just wanted to make sure at least that I wasn't blocking anything important. Aside from that, we also do have Braden Robertson. Robertson was drafted in the first round back 7 years ago at this point. Pretty solid grinder for being a grinder. Like, usually grinders don't pick up the most points in the world, but he's had some pretty solid offensive seasons. Also quite aggressive, but, 65 points 1 year, consistent 20 goal scorer up until this season. I've really liked how Robertson's been, but he is signed here for a number of years, I think, after this still, which is kind of good. So, decent player. Never won a Stanley Cup with us as well because that was before he made his debut. 35 points in 81 playoff games is also pretty good. 2045, when we had a chance to win another Stanley Cup, he had 12 points in those 24 games. And then 5 points in 21 playoff games isn't the best in 2043, but that was his first year of his career. So he's kind of an interesting player. I think he's still kind of underrated on this team, but maybe making a bit more than he's worth, but it's hard to say. Aside from that, we are going to skip on Kolarz for the time being. I will come back to him at the end of the forwards just because Kolarz obviously is the most important forward that's still on this team just because he's been with this team a lot longer than the rest of these guys. So once we get through the rest of these forwards, we'll come back to Kolarz. But Isaac Dingle, another solid steal late first round pick. He's only just played his first 2 seasons in the NHL, and he's been a 40-point getter in both years. So pretty solid player, definitely quite aggressive too in terms of the penalty minute count, but I think he's been a nice little player to inject into our lineup. Also 7 short-handed points already for him in 2 seasons, so he can honestly become maybe a pretty good penalty killer and also a little bit more of a physical player for this roster. And then from a playoff perspective, hasn't done too much. He's got 3 goals in 10 games. -7's not very good, so I don't know if I would have liked that too much, but to be honest, he's been a good player for us in the regular season at least. Hopefully, if there was more years of this, he would be more of a player that could play better in the postseason. So there is Dingle. The next player up here, we have another rookie, Sergey Vasilv. This was his first season in the NHL. He had 21 goals and 40 points after a couple of years in the AHL. 86 penalty minutes, so he is a little bit on the aggressive side of things, but I think he had a pretty good rookie year, especially because he was one of our best players this postseason as well, with 4 goals and 5 points in 6 games. So I think he could have developed into being something quite nice for this team with that lowly potential. Maybe not become the best goal scorer in the world because his offensive awareness is quite low, but definitely a solid player, and I think he'd only get better from here on out. Next up, we have, I think, another German, to be honest. Lucas Reefers? Is Reefers German? Yeah, we have a lot of Germans on this team, which I didn't even realize. But Reefers has played a good chunk here the last 6 years. He's not been the most offensive player, but he's respectable defensively, especially that one season where he was a +15. Does, like I said, provide some offense. Like, he could probably get to, being a 50-point guy, but obviously he'd need more of an elevated role. He was not playing on the power play, so maybe with some power play time, he'd be a much better offensive fit. And then from a playoff perspective, 19 points in 60 games, including 10 goals, which is pretty solid. So his shooting percentage is literally the exact same in the regular season as it is in the playoffs. So shout out to Reefers, another late first round pick back 10 years ago. So there is Reefers. We also have another youngster in Malachi Hartman. I think he's an American, if I remember right? No, he's Canadian. Shout out to Malachi Hartman. But yeah, he was drafted 3rd round. He's only starting to become an NHLer. I don't know if he's going to become the most insane player in the world, but he had 18 goals in his rookie season, which I'd say is pretty solid. A lot of years in the AHL and also in the WHL. He actually overstayed it quite a bit, I'd say. And then from an NHL playoff perspective, only 2 goals in 6 games, so maybe expected a bit more out of him. But I do think he would develop maybe a bit better because he does have some really good accuracy on his shots, so that's probably where he could start becoming a decent goal scorer on. So shout out to Malachi Hartman. Next up, we have another solid player in Quinn Cogeno. Jeez, could barely talk. Cogliano was a third-round pick as well, 95th overall, so a lot of good third-round steals in this franchise mode. He's another grinder just like Robertson. His production's not been the most insane. Like you can see, he's more of a 30-point guy again, taking a lot of penalty minutes, but he is still a decent player. I feel like he's been better in the playoffs, maybe. No, never mind. In the playoffs, he's been a lot worse, so maybe Cogliano would be one of these type of guys that I would eventually part ways with, because only 1 goal in 24 playoff games, 8 points isn't bad, but his shooting percentage literally drops down to 2.9% from 9.9 in the regular season, so he's kind of a weird player, but does pick up a lot of short-handed points, so at least he helps out with that. But yeah, not necessarily the craziest player in the world, but he's okay. Has have good shot blocking and stick checking apparently, and defensive awareness, so at least he could help us out with the defensive play a bit, but there he is, the Canadian Quinn Cogeno. Next up, we have another rookie who only made his debut this season, Eli McKinnon. I didn't really get too much out of McKinnon this year. His rookie season in terms of regular season was good, 15 goals and 24 points. Spent a long time in the AHL, 5 years before he came up. Playoffs, he didn't do anything whatsoever, had no points in 6 games, but he wasn't a minus player either, so at least his defensive play wasn't holding him back a bit, but I honestly don't know if this guy would become much of anything. I think he'd be just more of a career depth forward or a fourth liner at best. But he is a sniper with really good accuracy, so maybe there's a chance he could still become something decent. But yeah, decent steal, but honestly, I don't know if he would become something good. So there is Eli McKinnon. Next up, we also have another youngster in Sergey Moroza, who actually completely skipped the AHL and played an NHL season. 24 points in 82 games, 12 goals, plus 13. So pretty solid stuff from Moroza there. 2 points in the playoffs, even 0, including a big late game-winning goal. So Moroza is pretty solid. I think he's only going to get better from here on out as well with that low elite potential. I think obviously he'd be maybe a top 6 player at some point in his career as a power forward. Does have some pretty solid shooting. Obviously, a lot of his stuff still needs some growth, but I think all around he's a pretty solid player. Like, nothing's below 3 stars, so decent there. And when did we draft him again? Late first round, 22nd overall, just 2 seasons ago. All right. So there is Moroza, who is Russian? Yeah, Russian, that's what I thought. Aside from that, we also do have Roman Kichchek, who didn't get to play too much near the end of this franchise mode, but a solid depth for 13 points in 35 career games. Honestly, don't know what I would utilize him like. He wasn't the best player in the world, especially defensively, minus 11 in those 35 games, but still it was useful for us a couple years ago in the playoffs with 2 points in 4 games. Was minus 4 in those games, so kind of a bit of a liability defensively, which is unfortunate, but still a 4th rounder that actually got to play in the NHL is a nice little steal, and he's from Czechia. So there's Kichchek. And that's all for forwards. So the last forward we want to take a look at here before we look at the defenseman is obviously Kolarz. Kolarz has been here a very long time. He's 39 years old at this point. So he's lasted longer in his career than, Staubitz. Staubitz played till 37. And then also we had obviously Ristolainen played till like 41 years old. So Kolarz is one of the longest serving players on this team's history. Maybe the all-time leader in games played, hard to say because I haven't looked at the all-time stats yet. I think Ristolainen's still probably number 1, but Kolarz definitely could be up there too in games played. So let me move my face from this just in case I want to grab screenshots, but Matez Kolarz had a very, very long career, 1,786 games, which I think is less than Risto, because I feel like Risto was over 1,800 games played. But literally, look at the point production. Like, I'm kind of surprised. I wasn't going to do talk about the Channel Hall of Fame just yet, but Matez Kolarz, unfortunately, will be missing the Channel Hall of Fame. There is a chance that he could get in next year if I decided to add players that didn't make it. But Kolarz got 5 out of 17 votes. So there were 17 different people that voted on the Hall of Famers, and only 5 votes went to Kolarz. So there was 4 other people that were above him. Only 3 of those people will actually end up making it. So it's unfortunate for Kolarz, like I said, because he's been a very fantastic player in this franchise mode, but he will not be a Channel Hall of Famer this year. There is a chance, though, he could get back in if I decide to bring in some of these old names again. But yeah, Kolarz had a very long career. I think a lot of his point production is due to the fact he played with Ristolainen and also Estelwitz. But honestly, he's probably one of the more underrated players in the series, just because even after they left and stuff like that, he still had some pretty good seasons. So, but yeah, just a long career, almost point per game as well, and a plus 324 too, which is pretty insane. It's kind of crazy that he was here back when we were actually a really bad team, and he was minus 49 one year. So Kolarz has had a long career. A lot of power play points as well, so maybe the power play helped him out quite a bit. 368 power play points, 18 shorthanded points, so decently good on shorthanded stuff. But yeah, he dropped off a lot near the end. His takeaway numbers still look fantastic that last season, so definitely helped us out maybe a bit defensively as well. And then from a playoff perspective, 166 points in 201 playoff games. I guess he would be the all-time leader and potentially in playoff games, though, because he played some this year, and obviously Risto retired last year. So I'd assume he's the all-time leader in playoff games. Not too sure on that exactly, but shout out to Kolarz. A fantastic career with this team at the age of 39. There's a chance he might not retire still in this franchise mode, but who's to say? He was the former 3rd overall pick of ours back in 2027, so literally 22 seasons ago. I don't remember who went 1st and 2nd overall that year, but I might have to check in video format just to see who actually went in that draft, because there's probably some other really good players that went in that class, I would assume, especially if Kolarz went 3rd overall. So there is all of Kolarz' stuff, just in case you guys wanted to look at his stats and all that. And he is from Czechia as well, just like Rychek. So shout out to Kolarz, one of the best players in this team's history for sure. So there's the forwards. Now we got to look through the defenders and the goalies. And then we probably briefly looked at the AHLers that actually did play for our NHL team, which there's a few of them. And then we'll get to, obviously, looking through the entire NHL and taking a look and see if there's any former players still kicking it in the league. So, starting off with defenders, we have Ryder Mloud, who's also played times as a forward. So, Ryder Mloud's been a pretty good defenseman for his team, especially on the offensive front. Former 3rd-round pick of ours back in 2040, so 9 years ago at this point. Very good offensive statistics. He's had some up and down years, I would say, but he's been a pretty good player for the most part. But if we look, he is from Austria, which is interesting that he's an Austrian. $15.345 million, a little bit expensive near the end, but I was expecting him to win a Norris near the end of this. So, yeah, he's had an interesting career, to say the least. Like, 1 year he had 74 points, dropped down to 49 a few years later, and now he's back up to 68 points again. But 376 points in 486 games. Pretty solid. Like I said, not the best defenseman in terms of plus minus, but good in terms of offensive numbers. And then from a playoff perspective, I mean, he was pretty solid at times. 41 points in 60 games, but a minus 15. He was a little bit of a liability in the playoffs at times. Like, when we jumped in to watch some games, he had like some offensive chances where he actually scored an overtime winner, but then he also had some plays where he literally gave up like a 3-on-1, and then that went into the back of our net. So I'm not too sure if I really liked how Mloud played defensively, so I probably would have preferred to keep him as a forward in a way. But at the same time, he's been at least doing some good stuff production-wise offensively, especially that 1 year, 19 points in 24 playoff games. After that, he hasn't been really the same player, but he's still a decent-ish offensive defenseman. So shout out to Ryder Mloud. Another player that's kind of underrated that I'm surprised that nobody decided to try and vote for to get into the Channel Hall of Fame is DeAndre Hunwick. This guy, I think, has been kind of quiet, like a quietly good player, and it's kind of insane how good he's been. He was another 3rd-round steal, 97th overall, literally 12 years ago. Long career with this team, and I don't know what country he's from, to be honest. He's from Slovenia, I think that is, because I don't think that's Slovakia, because it's got the little that little icon thingy in the top left of the flag. I think that's Slovenia. Yeah, shout out to DeAndre Hunwick. Let's take a look at his career numbers because I honestly don't know what to expect from him, but I'm pretty sure he's been underrated. And that's probably the case. Yeah, the last few years he's actually been pretty good offensively too, and he's got very good plus minuses. So he's played 796 games, 326 points. The last 4 years, most of them he's hit 40 to 50 points. He's also been scoring some more goals as of late too. He's got a great plus minus in his career, plus 211. Like, he just does a lot of good work for his team, I feel like. And then probably good on the defensive end, too. Yeah, he throws a lot of hits, blocks a lot of shots. His giveaways and stuff like that are pretty bad, but aside from that, he's been pretty good. If we look at his playoff numbers as well, he's been a solid playoff producer, too, at times. 44 points in 112 games, even 0. Had one playoff run where he scored 7 goals, which is kind of insane. So, shout out to Hunwick, who was actually not a part of that cup-winning team either, I guess. That's kind of insane. I felt like Hunwick would have been on that cup-winning team, but the only one, I guess, was Kolarz. So, but yeah, Hunwick, underrated player. And, yeah, probably going to end up becoming this team's best defenseman at some point if McLeod was to leave. Aside from that, we also have another defenseman that's kind of underrated, in my opinion, in Ricard Hudnan. Not the craziest offensive player, but he is a DFD after all. Drafted literally almost just over a decade ago. 33rd overall, so that was the year we won the Stanley Cup. He was the pick that we took in that first round, so that's kind of neat just to tie it into the Cup win that we did have. But he's an interesting player because he did have some pretty big goals, I'm pretty sure, in the playoffs at some stages. Also does score a good chunk of goals for a DFD. Like, he's had some seasons over 10 goals. So, definitely kind of underrated. A little bit aggressive with the Peterman account, but still, I did really like Ricard Hudnan. And then from a playoff perspective, 29 points in 101 playoff games, 11 goals. So, and if we look at it, he's had 3 game-winning goals in the playoffs. So that's probably why I think he's a little bit underrated. Helped out with the game-winning goals a lot in the postseason. 14 game-winning goals in the regular season too. So a little bit of a clutch defenseman was Ricard Hudnan. So there's all that. Luckily he's from Finland, right? Yeah, Finland, that's what I thought. I did want to actually take a look at Hunwick again for a second. How many game-winning goals did he have? Because I feel like he had a lot. 7 in the regular season and 3 in the playoffs. So yeah, Hunwick and Hudnan both helped out a lot with game-winning goals in the postseason. The next player we got here is another German, I think, on the team, Rudolph Nolles. Yep, German, that's what I thought. He was drafted recently, only 5 years ago, 29th overall. He's starting to come into his own a little bit as a decent defenseman. Played 2 years here. Respectable numbers defensively and offensively. And playoff-wise, hasn't done too much, but like I said, he's just getting his feet wet in the NHL. So, shout out to Rudolph Nolles. I think he could become a decent defenseman at some point. But yeah, he's definitely on the uprise a little bit. The next defenseman, probably another German, or is he a Swede? Michael Peterman. Probably German, right? Another German. For some reason, we drafted a lot of good Germans in this franchise mode, and we just are finding this out now. So maybe we just had a really good DEL scout. But regardless, Peterman, former second-round pick 9 years ago. Solid DFD. And obviously, we gave him a clause near the end of this franchise mode, which was only to get him to accept his money. But solid stats, 103 points, 31 goals, 72 assists, plus 92. So very good defensive awareness, I guess, in that sense. Playoff-wise, 11 points, 81 games. Didn't really provide too much for us in the postseason. Maybe a bit too aggressive at times, but he's still a pretty good player. And he's a right-handed defenseman, which is very valuable. Aside from that, we also do have Timo Karladi, who's definitely a Finnish defenseman. Former first-round pick of ours 9 years ago. Hasn't really developed into what I was anticipating him to be, because I think, if I remember right, he was a high overall out of the draft. He was in the AHL last season, came back to the NHL, put up pretty much respectable numbers. Not the most offensive player in the world, but solid defensively. And then from a playoff perspective, didn't do too much either, so maybe also a bit too aggressive with the penalty minutes. So maybe that's what kind of made us have a little bit of a downfall, was we were more of a physical team near the end, and we just took too many penalties. We also do have Lawson, who really didn't get to play too much with us, but he was a 6th-round pick of hers literally a decade ago. More of a career depth defenseman, only played 10 NHL games this season, and didn't get to play a single playoff game, but solid AHL numbers, 53 points 1 year, so shout out to Lawson. I don't know what country he's from. United States, okay. And then we get to the goaltenders. We're going to start off with Bachman and Andronov because we have to get to Gionta last out of the three of these goalies. So first and foremost, we got Caleb Bachman. Was drafted second round literally 7 years ago. He is a pending UFA, but he's been a pretty solid backup over these last 3 years. His first year was not the best, but his last 2 years have been pretty good. And I think he would probably end up being the backup at some stage full-time, unless I was to basically bring Gionta back, because all three goalies would be up for renewal this offseason. But yeah, Bachman was an okay goaltender. Didn't really get too much playing time, but he was still decent. He is from U.S. as well. Okay, so there's Caleb Bachman. We also do have Andronov. Andrei Andronov's actually not too bad either. Former 6th-round pick back 7 years ago, so a long, long time ago. Him and Bachman are actually in the same draft, which is kind of cool that they both came up together. But Andronov has played a little bit of NHL time as well. 1 season as the backup as well. Played a little bit here back in 2047. Wasn't the best there, but was really good this last season for us. And he ended up being our better goalie in the playoffs as well. So I don't really know what to expect from Andronov down the road, but I think he'd probably eventually take over the starting job for Gionta if we were to bring him back. So Andronov is from Ukraine. So shout out to Andronov. So there's our 2 goalies. Now we get into the first Channel Hall of Fame member inducted in this series, Jason Gionta. Jason Gionta has made the Channel Hall of Fame. A Hall of Fame worthy career in my opinion. Let's hide my face so you guys can see more of his stats and stuff like that. But Jason Gionta will be joining a couple other players in the Hall of Fame that are both retired. You guys probably could guess who those 2 players are because Gionta made it. But Gionta was a 4th-round steal literally 18 years ago. It's kind of crazy that was 18 years ago that we drafted him. But he's been with this team a very, very long time. And he's been a pretty damn good goaltender for us. At times, he was a part of the Cup-winning team back in 2038. He won 3 Vezinas total, and what his recent one was 6 years ago. I don't remember what his other ones were, but he won 3 Vezinas. He also has won 4 Jennings trophies, so he's probably one of the most decorated goaltenders I've had in a franchise mode. And he's a Canadian goaltender, which is pretty damn sick. So there is that. Let's take a look at his career numbers now. But you can see regular season, he was only 6 wins away from hitting 500 wins in his career. He had a final record of 494, 214 in 72. 808 career games with the Albuquerque Aliens. 55 shutouts, a .912 career save percentage, which is quite impressive. Obviously, he had some really good years, like a .922 there, a .912, a 9.13. 9.18, 9.23 there, 9.14 there, 9.12. Like, he had a lot of years above a 9.10 save percentage. So he very much was good. He also spent 2 years in the AHL as well after he came over from the London Knights. Also a career goals against average of 2.67, which is damn impressive. And then he also had a career 21 assists. Never scored a goal, of course, because goalies don't score very often, but 21 assists. He helped out offensively as well. And then from a playoff perspective, he was also pretty solid at times. Other times he was pretty bad, but 145 games, a 78, 54, and 11 record, 5 shutouts, a .908 save percentage, and a 2.96 goals against average. Now, his numbers in the playoffs look bad mostly because of these last 2 seasons. So if these 2 seasons were erased, I'd say he's probably closer to a 910 save percentage than because he did have a really good run in 2045, almost won us another Stanley Cup, did not win it, but he also had like some years here with like a 915, a 918, like he was impressive, 921 there, and 923 there, so yeah, Gionta was the man in the net for sure. Did he have any assists in the playoffs? 4 assists in the playoffs too, so he did a lot of good things for his team. His career preseason numbers, in case you guys want to take a look at that, not the most incredible numbers, but obviously preseason doesn't really matter too much at all. But Jason Gionta is the first inductee into the Hall of Fame for this team. He ended up getting a total of 10 out of 17 votes because, like I said, there were 17 people that voted on this straw poll, and he got 10 votes from those 17 different people. So pretty impressive. Basically, more than half of you guys decided to vote for him to make it into the Hall of Fame, which means the other players that are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, we might as well get into them now, just because we're talking about the Hall of Fame inductees. Let's start off with the next Hall of Fame inductees. So let me actually move this over to this screen and go to this so you guys can see the other Hall of Fame inductees in this franchise mode. Well, you guys probably just saw the straw poll. The first one, obviously, Josiah Staubitz has made the Channel Hall of Fame, 1,600 points in 1,543 games. Absolutely fantastic career for Staubitz. Really good numbers in the playoffs as well. He was over point per game. And also, he had a ton of awards, as you can see here. Here was all his awards. He won a Stanley Cup in 2038, won the Conn Smythe that year. We won the Stanley Cup. And then he also had a lot of hardware. He had two Harts. He had 2 Ted Lindsays, he had 2 Art Ross trophies, and 3 Maurice Richards. So he's easily making it into the Hall of Fame. As you can see, he got 14 out of 17 votes, which was the second most. So it's kind of surprising he wasn't the most voted. But 14 out of 17 of you guys voted for him. So welcome to the Channel Hall of Fame to Josiah Staubitz. And then the last one you guys would have just saw based on the voting. If I get through all these screenshots that I normally take for no reason. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the next one, the last and final one, obviously the Finn. Kari Ristolainen is the last inductee into the Channel Hall of Fame. He had 15 out of 17 votes, so most of you guys voted for him. I'm really surprised, like I said, that he had more votes than Staubitz, but well over point per game, or a little bit over point per game, I should say. 1,878 points in 1,859 games, 859 goals, 1,019 assists, a plus 152. Over 1,000 penalty minutes, which is rather surprising. But the thing that made him a very good player wasn't just his playoff performance, where he had 178 points in 201 games. It was also the hardware he won. He won the Stanley Cup with us in 2038, had a Hart trophy, just like Staubitz did. He had a Ted Lindsay and an Art Ross, but he also won 6 Selke trophies. So very good defensive player. It was mainly because he had very good face-off attributes, but still 6 Selke trophies is rather impressive. So those are the inductees this year into the Channel Hall of Fame. So Gionta, Ristolainen, and Staubitz are in the Hall of Fame. The ones missing out, I'll just read out quickly. Norena missed out. Well, he had 6 votes, so he actually had more votes than Kolarz. I don't remember what Norena's career numbers were like. And then Bell also missed. Bell only had 1 vote. Whoever voted for Bell, shout out to you, because I honestly don't know if I would have actually put Bell there normally. But Bell had 535 points in 1,553 games. He also had guys like Cashman that were very solid but didn't make the Channel Hall of Fame. Trying to remember, how many points did Norena have? Did I ever have a screenshot of Norena when he retired? I gotta double check this quickly while we're recording this video. Might as well. Did I look at Norena's career stats? No, I don't think so. Huh. Alright. Interesting. I don't remember what his career numbers were like. You guys could remind me if you want in the comments, but Norena was still a guy that could have obviously made the Channel Hall of Fame if he would have got some more votes. But with that said, I think we're ready to head on over to the rest of the league. I could look at the AHL briefly. Like I said, if there's any former players that played with us. I think there was only a couple, like Ariel Segal, for instance. This guy barely played with us. 22 games, 8 points, plus 16, though, which is kind of impressive. So maybe he should have had a higher chance to be a depth defenseman for us, but he was not utilized that well. He didn't develop crazily. A guy I guess we should take a look at is Sergey Tulipov, who, like I said, left his team, played in Minnesota for a few years, came back last year, was decent, played a full year in the AHL this last season. Really respectable player. He was also part of the cup-winning team, I think, back in 2038. I don't remember if he won a cup in Minnesota. I don't think he did. Let's take a look at that. I don't think he did, right? No, he didn't. So he won a cup with us, never won with Minnesota, but I don't even remember what country this is, though, this flag. But yeah, Tulipov was another solid defenseman on this team. There's also guys like Sagan. Sagan didn't really get to play too much here either. 89 career games and 12 points. Not bad. No career playoff games with our team. Also left us a little bit to play with like San Jose and all that. So he really didn't get to play here too much. Only 7 games as an alien. There's also Alvin Johnston. Kind of an okay player. Probably could have got back into the NHL lineup again. 16 points, 97 games. Pretty solid there. Playoffs, 7 games, no points. Even 0, though. So, Alvin Johnston was a second rounder in 2041, and he is from Italy, which is kind of weird with the name Alvin Johnston. You got to say like Alvin Johnson, you know? No. I don't know. Aside from that, other AHLers that played in the NHL, Andy Wall, this was a guy I didn't really want to demote to the AHL, but he did play in the AHL in the last season. 44 goals in the AHL in the last year, but he was a pretty solid bottom 6 option, just I couldn't fit him in the last season. 17 goals in his rookie season. So there is Andy Wall. We drafted him 4th round in 2042, and he is from the United States of America. So shout out to Wall. There is, I think, a couple other guys like Jason Doughty. Another good season for him in the AHL. Obviously, he was a very solid AHL or NHL or 2 in the bottom 6, but I could not find a way to fit him in this last season. 99 career points. That kind of sucks. I wish I would have played him at least one game to get 100 points, but 328 games, pretty solid. And then from a playoff perspective, 11 points in 42 playoff games. And that's all that. He was drafted 5th round in 2039, so 10 years ago at this point. He has really good passing stats too, but just didn't get a big chance with this team. So there is all his stats. He's also from Austria, just like McLeod is, I think it was. So shout out to Jason Doughty. And I think nobody else played on the NHL team. There is some guys that would have played probably next season on the NHL team, like Felix Licht. Unfortunately, we won't get to see him play. But yeah, definitely some of these prospects could have made it the upcoming season. So there is all that. Now let's take a look at everybody across the entire league and see what players are still kicking that used to play with us. And then we'll look at the record book, and I think that'll be pretty much this video after that point. So let's see what we got here. So starting off with the Anaheim Ducks, we do have the one guy I mentioned, I think it was last episode or a couple episodes ago, Caden Comrie, former second rounder of ours 13 years ago. Let's see how he's been doing in Anaheim, because we know that he got paid a shit ton of money, almost $18 million. How has he been with the Ducks? Not worth his money, but still decent production. I mean, it's kind of similar to what he was doing with us. 52 points one year, back-to-back 66-point seasons. But obviously, he's not been the best defensively. The Ducks are also just getting back, I think, into the playoff race, which looks like it because they've only played in the last 2 of the last 3 years. He's been pretty bad defensively in the postseason. Like, in terms of offensive stats, 8 points in 17 games with the Ducks, but a minus 12. So not too great there, but he was okay when he played with us at times, but his career plus-minus in the playoffs is just really bad. So he never on our cup-winning team, never probably won any awards. No, he's from Switzerland, which is kind of interesting. But there is Comrie. Aside from that, it's kind of funny because Anaheim has 2 guys coming back from injury. One's Trenton Jacobs. The other one is Thomas E. Jacobs with the K. All right. Any other former players on Anaheim before we flip on over to Boston? I don't think so. Wait, was Boynton one of ours? I recognize Boynton. Maybe we just played against him. Yeah, I think we probably played against him in the playoffs. Lukowicz. All right. Yeah, I don't recognize anybody else there. All right, let's take a look at Boston, see if there's any former aliens. Bure's not ours. Who is this Bure dude even anyways? Oh, yeah, Vegas. Okay, I think I do remember that dude from somewhere. Trying to see if there's any former guys that used to play like in our AHL or bottom 6 or something like that. Mangone, that was not ours. That's a former Duck. Goalies, no. Scratched? No. Okay. Nobody in Boston. What about Buffalo? Trying to see here. Anybody that used to play with us? No, that's not ours. Looks like not a lot of guys so far. I feel like there's probably not a lot of guys that used to play with us still kicking in the league because I've seen a lot of them retire, so I don't think we're going to see a lot of guys that used to play with us. There is the other Bell that we used to joke around, I think, at one point that he was the brother of our Bell, but he's still much younger, obviously, because our Bell just retired last season or 2 seasons ago, whenever it was. Goalies, nobody here, and scratched. Don't know who you are, Carolina. Yeah, nobody used to play with us there. What about Calgary? Oh, there's one. Esteban Doig. It's been a while since I've seen Esteban Doig. Didn't know he was going to be in Calgary because I think he was with the Oilers at one point. But former 4th overall pick of the Albuquerque Aliens 19 years ago at this point, which is kind of insane. But yeah, he was on the cup winning team, I'd like to say. Yeah, he was. Yeah, okay. So he won a Stanley Cup with our team. Afterwards, never won another Stanley Cup. But in terms of his NHL career, after he left the Aliens, he basically signed a pretty big contract with the Edmonton Oilers because I think he got paid a lot of money on that contract. But he put 59 points up, 56, 71. So not bad offensively, but was missing the playoffs, it looks like, every year based on the plus-minus. Then went to Florida, who was also doing bad. He also picked up some good points there, but his plus-minus, once again, not the best. Also took a lot of penalties. And he was in Florida for quite a while before he decided to leave to Calgary for his last season, where he had 67 points at the age of 37. So a respectable offensive career for Esteban Doig. Like I said, over 1,000 career points. A lot of them with other teams, not us. And then his plus-minus was pretty bad, though. Minus 127. Over 1,000 PIMs. And then from a playoff perspective, after he left us with that Stanley Cup win, he only had 2 more years in the postseason. So this guy just did not get a lot of playoff experience after he won the Stanley Cup. 9 points, 14 games. 8 points, 13 games. So he did his part in those playoff series, it looks like. But his team just did not win. So shout out to Doig. I don't even know what country he's from. Oh, the U.S. as well, if one is surprised. We did draft a lot of Americans, I guess, with this team. Aside from that, anybody else on the Flames that used to play with us? Not on offense. Defensively, don't think so. What did I recognize your name? Okay, probably played you in the playoffs or something like that. Goalies, nobody there. Scratch, nobody. All right. What about Carolina? Let's see. I know at one point they did have Bogosian, but Bogosian retired recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's nobody on a lot of these teams, like I said. But might as well take a look through their rosters anyways. See if there's any... Oh, there's one. That's a pretty big one. Trenton Spezza. I forgot that he didn't retire yet. 38 years old, 77 overall at this point. He's definitely dropped off a cliff, but Trenton Spezza did win a Stanley Cup against us a number of years ago. So, yeah, he did win a cup in 2044-45, won a Vezina Trophy in 2040-41. Pretty solid goaltender. Didn't really get to play as much here as we were expecting him to, because Gionta ended up becoming the guy for us. But Spezza had a very good career as a Carolina Hurricane, because after he played 4 seasons with us, we decided to let him walk despite a .916 save percentage. Carolina, he ended up posting up some pretty good numbers. And like I said, he ended up winning a Vezina here with a .920 save percentage one season. Also won a Stanley Cup against us in 24-45, which is unfortunate. But at least he got a Stanley Cup on his belt. And yeah, the playoffs, his last good run was pretty much his year where he won the cup against us. He was dominant that year. Very dominant. Yeah, very underrated goaltender. I wish I kind of held on to him in a way. At the same time, I kind of understand why I let go of him, because eventually Gionta became really good. But Spezza probably would have been just as good with us, I would assume. But yeah, shout out to Trenton Spezza. Him and Gionta both used to play in the AHL on the same team, I think, as well. Same time. Aside from that, we also, let's see, got any other former players? I feel like there's probably some more that I'm just completely forgetting about out there. Chicago has nobody? I don't think so. I thought it was going to be John Hancock for some reason, but it's not. What else we got here? Colorado, just looking for former guys. Don't care about anybody else other than former players. Oh boy, there's one I completely forgot about. I don't know why I forgot about Rick Kim, but Rick Kim in Colorado, he's dropped off a lot too. It's listed still as a third-line scoring forward, but there is a chance he could retire this season. Wow, I almost forgot completely about Rick Kim. And I don't know if any of you guys forgot about Rick Kim randomly, but he hasn't been a player on our team in 7 seasons. After he left, he was demanding too much money. Had actually some pretty good years in Colorado. 68 points, 73, 69, 81 one season. But his last few years, only like 40 points. So probably getting overpaid at this point. Only had 1 year in the playoffs in Colorado after he left us too. So that's unfortunate for him. He was putting up a lot of good numbers, or solid numbers, but only 1 year playoff experience with Colorado. I think he was a part of our cup winning team, correct then? Yeah, he was a part of our cup winning team. Was on a modified no trade clause. 30 team no trade in that last season. Damn. And $9.35 million. So shout out to Rick him. Aside from that, do we got any other guys in Colorado? Garvin and Galvin, what a pairing. It's kind of interesting looking at some of these teams' rosters, though, too, because some of these guys I've never seen before in the playoffs. So that's it for Colorado. Columbus, nobody on scratch. What about Fords? Let's see. Nobody there. Defensively, don't see anybody there either. And goalies, wow, they had a really good goaltending tandem, 90 and a 91. So that's probably the best goalie tandem I've seen, other than like the one the Sharks had, or not the Sharks, the Preds had. So shout out to Columbus, damn. All right, what else we got here? Dallas. Do I recognize anybody here? Not really. Who is this dance guy? 14th overall. Okay, I think I remember when that guy got drafted too. Someone I recognize from the drafts at least. Nobody there. And nobody there. Alright. Detroit. There's a lot of names here, so a lot of these guys, if I do pass up on them, any former players, let me know, because I didn't mean to miss them, but some guys I might not remember fully if they play with us. Goalie, remember from San Jose, I think, playing against him in the playoffs before. Goalies, nobody there. Nobody there. I don't expect there to be too much more players that used to play with us, unless there's people I'm completely forgetting about. Nobody there in Edmonton. Defensively, no. Goalies, no. Damn. There's got to be somebody that I'm completely forgetting too. But I'm kind of surprised that I forgot about some of these guys already, though. And it's only been like 7 seasons since we've had some of them. Like, honestly, I don't even know why I forgot about them. Florida has nothing either. Los Angeles, let's see. Any guy that used to play with our team. Feel like there's barely anybody still available. Let's see. Minnesota. We played Minnesota a lot recently in the playoffs, so that's probably why I recognize a lot of these names. Goalies, nobody there. Scratch, nobody. All right. Montreal. Montreal has nobody on offense. Defensively, don't see anybody there. Goalies, no. Scratched, no. Yeah, I swear there's probably barely anybody that's still playing. We know Nashville had... didn't Nashville... Yeah, oh yeah, it was the injured dude. Peterson. We got to definitely take a look at Peterson. This is the team that knocked us out of the playoffs. There is Marek Mahalik, so let's just briefly look at Marek Mahalik. We know that he literally played in Nashville a number of years ago. He's played in Pittsburgh. Kind of an underrated defensive defenseman in a sense. It's like his plus-minus is pretty good. Didn't really get a chance to play here too much, though. Like, he actually played a couple seasons in a row. Really good plus-minus, so maybe that's why his plus-minus looks really good in his career. Yeah, Marek Mahalik was an okay player. When did we draft this guy even? 2nd round, 2033. And he is a Slovak. All right. He did win a Stanley Cup with us. So there's at least another cup-winning member. Goalies is that. And then this guy, obviously, Mauricio Peterson, is a very interesting one to take a look at. He was a former 10th overall pick of ours back in 2031, so 18 years ago. Very, very solid player. Kind of wish I held on to him longer. Did win a Stanley Cup with us also in 2038, but he's kind of one of these underrated players. After he left us, he played a couple of years in Detroit, 3 years to be exact, 63 points, 75 and 71. Then went to Nashville, put up 57, 38 one year, missed a lot of time due to injury. This year he also missed 12 games due to injury, and in this year he barely played. So he's been kind of battling a lot of injuries the last few years. And that's why we didn't end up getting to play against him in the playoffs either, which is kind of insane. So, unfortunate for him, he never got to win another Stanley Cup. Maybe he's going to be on the cup-winning Nashville Predators team if they win in this final season. But, yeah, he's not got to play a lot with his Preds the last few years. Like, he's probably missed, like, a lot of main games due to injury. Like, this is almost 20 games. That's 18 games. He lost 12 there, so that's 30 games already. and then he missed like the last 26 games there. So he's probably lost like 56 regular season games due to injury, and in the playoffs he's missed like a lot of those games as well. So it's unfortunate for Peterson, but his durability is only 78, so I could see probably why he's been injured a ton. So shout out to Peterson anyways. Really solid player when he was with us, but we just couldn't hold on to him too long term because he would have been overpaid probably at some point. Like, I think we prioritized Cashman over him, if I remember right. From a New Jersey perspective, any guys that used to play with us there? Don't see anybody on offense. Defensively, don't recognize any names. Goalies, no. Scratch, no. New York Islanders. Kind of interesting looking into the Islanders in this series versus my Islanders team I made in my franchise mode. Okay, nobody there. Defensively, don't see anybody there. Goalies, nope. Scratched, no. The New York Rangers, which obviously have had some pretty solid players in the series as well. Alright, what about defensively? Nobody there. Goalies, nope. Scratched, nope. Yeah, there's a little bit of a lack of former aliens out there, but that's okay. It's still kind of fun to look at these teams' lines and seeing what everybody was looking like going into this last season. Nobody there. What about goalies? Nobody there, and nobody there either. All right, Philadelphia. We're kind of flying through this a little bit quick. I don't know how long this episode is at this point, because I did restart recording this because my voice was just dying on me a bit too much. Nobody in Philadelphia on offense. Defensively, nobody there. Goalies, nobody there. Scratched, nobody there. Pittsburgh has a major injury, but nobody there on scratched. Offensively, oh, there is Philippe Maloc. I didn't realize he was going to be playing center on that team. Yeah, Philippe Maloc has dropped off a cliff, but he's still playing in the NHL. 53 games played, 19 points this last season. Playoffs, he's only played one game. But, yeah, he did have a good run with Nashville a couple years ago. So, he is a 75 overall at this point. Former 10th overall pick of ours back in 2033. Not too bad. Never won a Stanley Cup, which is kind of surprising. So there is Philip Maloc. When did we draft him again? I said 10th overall. Okay. Just got to make sure I look at some of those stats a bit more in depth. From a defensive standpoint, nobody there. And goalies, nobody there. We already looked at the scratches. San Jose, we've obviously played them a lot recently, so we've seen Dorian Sawchuk in this team a lot. There is Neil McNeil. I guess we'll look at the meme Neil McNeil, even though he's not a former draft pick of ours. I do want to show you guys his career stats because I know you guys wanted to look at his career before. So 515 points, almost 1,000 games. Not a bad player is Neil McNeil. At first, I didn't know if he was going to become much because teams were scratching him and all that, but still kind of cool to see what the meme was looking like. He did win a cup last year too, so after the Sharks beat us. Any former players there in San Jose, though? I don't think so, right? Because I don't remember anybody. No. All right. What about St. Louis? Or not St. Louis, Seattle now. Seattle's a team that should win a Stanley Cup at some point with this Bjorkstrand guy. I'm surprised he hasn't won a cup yet. This guy's been one of the more decorated players in the series, so... let's see. Anybody I remember? Nobody on offense. Defensively, nobody there either. Goalies... Nope. Scratched. Nope. We head to St. Louis now. We have played this team before. There's one Carter Hennessy. We've seen him a couple times in the playoffs as well. 3rd round pick in 2032, so 17 years ago. Didn't really get a huge chance with us too much, to be honest, but has become a decent-ish player. He's also a Hungarian, which is interesting, but long time at the St. Louis Blues. Pretty good player in St. Louis. Pretty solid player. Only got to play 2 years with our team. And we had to let him walk after 62 points because we thought he was not going to do the same type of thing again. But playoff stats, he's been really good actually in last year's playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs this season, I guess. But 11 points and 12 points games last year was quite impressive. Was he part of our cup winning team too? No, he wasn't. Okay. I thought he was, though, to be honest, because I thought he played in the playoffs that year, right? Yeah, he did play he played all 27 games the year we won the cup, but he didn't get credit with the Stanley Cup because he never played a regular season game that year. Yeah, we called him up for the playoffs specifically. And then he won a Stanley Cup with us, but he didn't win a cup, basically, because he didn't have a regular season game. That's kind of unfortunate. I'd say he's technically a Stanley Cup champion, but it's up to you guys on that front. Anybody else in St. Louis? I know that there is one, of course, which is goaltender in Malkin, but we'll come to him in a second. Let's see, and there he is. So Boris Malkin obviously didn't leave us too long ago, so we kind of are freshed up with his stats, but after he left us, he's played 5 years in St. Louis now, posting very good numbers every single year. So, yeah, he's been very good. He was also good when he was with us, but I prioritized Gionta controversially. I liked holding on to Gionta. I think I made the right call holding on to Gionta, but obviously I couldn't have made a bad decision, I don't think, with that one, because it's two really good goalies regardless. So there's Malkin's career playoff numbers. And in terms of awards, Malkin also had some pretty solid stats. He is getting paid a lot more money, I think, than Gionta, but look at those numbers, or those awards. 2 Jennings trophies, 1 with us, 1 with the St. Louis Blues. And I'd say at some point he probably would have won a Vezina, probably next season or something like that. Just watch. So there is St. Louis. We head to Tampa. Anybody else? I feel like we're right near the end of all the players now. Let's see. I know this part's probably boring and draggy, but you guys want to probably see where some former players are. So I kind of want to see where these former players are as well, if possible. If there's anybody still out there. Which maybe there's one more, at least. Maybe some of them are in the AHL, but I'm not going to look through AHL teams to find them. I just feel like it's going to... Oh, there's a former player I almost forgot about. Evan Patrick, former enforcer of this team. Only for a little bit, but he's kind of bounced around a lot after leaving us. Because after leaving us, he only played like 1 season with our team. Or 2 seasons with our team. We decided to let him go. He ends up playing in New Jersey, 20 points. He ends up playing in Chicago for 29 games, 40 penalty minutes in those 29 games, so pure on goon. Then he goes to Boston for a season, or 2 seasons, or 3 seasons actually. Then goes to Toronto, and he's been there since. Playoffs, let's see, he's never won a Stanley Cup, I don't think either. Yeah, never won a Stanley Cup, so. Shout out to Evan Patrick, short time with the Albuquerque Aliens, but at least he played with us. So there is Toronto, Utah. Wow, 97 overall. That 7 guy is going to be insane. Former first overall pick 5 years ago. Yeah, that guy's going to be a really good player at some point. He already is, technically, I guess. Defensively, don't recognize anybody there. Goalies. Oh, they got Mateo Blackburn now, huh? I do remember Blackburn from, yeah, Minnesota. That's what I thought it was. All right. Nobody else there. All right, final few teams. We have Vancouver. Any former Aliens in the Couve? I don't think so. That's not our former Bure because they drafted that guy, remember? Nope. Goalies, no. And nobody there. All right. Vegas. Anybody in the Vegas? Let's see. No. Defensively, don't see anybody there either. Goalies. Yeah, there's not too much more players, I don't think. There might be one more, but I doubt it almost at this point. Washington. Nobody on offense. Defensively. Oh, Zach Hurd. There's the last one I was thinking of. Zach Hurd has left this team a long time ago. 17 years ago, he was drafted. I thought he was going to become more of something, but after we let him go, he had some long-time play with, like, a little bit with the Montreal, played 3 years. Had actually a really good first season with them. Second year was pretty good. Third year was pretty bad defensively. He ended up leaving to free agency, and he's been with the Vancouver Canucks for quite a while, 5 years there. Got dealt at the deadline, looks like, to Chicago. Played there for a bit, was minus 13 in those 19 games in Chicago. Went to free agency, played in New Jersey for a year, and now he's in Washington. So he's been a bit of a journeyman the last few years, but still shout out to Zach Hurd. And he has played a little bit of time in the playoffs after leaving us as well. Had a good playoff run, I guess, in 2041, plus 6 and 7 games, but didn't get far. So shout out to Zach Hurd. I guess he was on our Cup winning team too. Yeah, he was. He has won 2 Masterton trophies as well, so has won some Mastertons outside of on some bad teams, I guess. But former first rounder, not the best player in the world, but not a bad one by any stretch. In terms of goalies, no former players there, and scratch, there's nobody. All right, the last team to look at, the Winnipeg Jets. We do have another former guy in Caleb Doig, because we had 2 Doigs at one point. Yes, I almost forgot about that. Second round grinder. So we've had a lot of grinders on this team that we've drafted over the years. So I think we might have made ourselves too aggressive at one point. But Caleb Doig in Winnipeg in this last season. I think he played with the other Doig somewhere else as well, if I remember right. But I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. Never mind. He's played 5 years in Winnipeg after leaving us. And he's been solid 40-point kind of guy, but still taking a lot of penalties. Not the best defensive results the last 4 seasons. And only played 1 time in the playoffs after he left us with the Jets. So, kind of didn't do too much. Kind of getting maybe a little bit overpaid as well. Never won a Stanley Cup on our team. So, shout out to Caleb Doig, though. Aside from that, I think that's probably the last player to look at, right? We had a shout out to say Yves Bissonnette, though. This guy's a friggin' machine. Over 1,000 points for this defenseman. I just had to shout him out. He's really good. Anybody else, though, or no? No, there is not. So there's all the former players around the league still at this point in time. There might be some in the AHL, but not worth looking through every single AHL team. All right, the final thing we got to take a look at in this finale episode is obviously the... Well, we'll simulate up to the awards here shortly. We'll look at the record book too. I guess we'll simulate up to the awards right now because I think I get to look at the record book afterwards anyways. So let's find out who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in the last season in the final season awards for 2049. So who's going to be the Cup champion in this last year? The answer is going to be, I feel like it's going to be Nashville. I don't know, because Nashville is pretty good against us. The answer will be the Philadelphia Flyers win the last Stanley Cup. San Diego wins the Calder Cup. So Philadelphia, Stanley Cup champions, and there is the notification we all regretted to see. Franchise mode is now complete. So, can I go to the awards still and stuff like that to see that Stanley Cup award stuff? And then I could take a look at the record book still, right? Oh, no. You're telling me I can't take a look at the record book after the season ends still? I thought I could. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, let's quit this quickly. Exit without saving. And we might have a new Cup champion for that last season, but I hope that I don't overwrite any important files. We do have this file left still. It's good that I have this file because, or else that would not have been good. Yeah, April 26th, that's fine. Yeah, okay, good. Yikes. That was a little bit dangerous. I didn't realize that you can't take a look at the record book after you simulate that far. So let's take a look at the record book first then, and then we'll see if the Flyers end up still winning the Stanley Cup. Jeez. That's kind of weird. I thought the record book would have showed up there. Maybe it did and I just was completely blind, but the record book for this team. Let's take a look at this. So, in terms of most seasons as an Albuquerque Alien, Matez Kolarz, 22 seasons this season is current, but the most all-time, Kari Ristolainen played 23 seasons with this team. There's a chance Kolarz could have played his 23rd season after this year, but we will never know if he was actually going to come back or not. The most games played all time was Kari Ristolainen, 1,859 games played. Obviously, the most all time currently is Kolarz. Pretty much Kolarz had mostly everything currently, but most all time goals in team history was Ristolainen with 859. So Ristolainen outscored Staubitz. Kolarz is the all time assist leader. Not really a surprise on that because he was the most elite setup guy on that top line. Aside from that, most penalty minutes and most points all time was Ristolainen. Ristolainen just cleaned up in a lot of things. So technically Staubitz, even though he was such a good legend, he's not going to have any of the career records with this team, which is kind of weird. But Ristolainen led with 1,878 points and 1,349 penalty minutes. Most all-time wins, not a surprise, is Gionta, and same with the shutouts. So Kind of expected all those in terms of the career records, but kind of surprised that Staubitz wasn't up there at all. In terms of season records, there is games played is just kind of always broken. It's always a guy in the first season, which is kind of funny. So shout out to Willi Mulkey. Aside from that, most goals in a season was back in 2042. That was obviously Staubitz when he had a 73-goal season, so that was 7 years ago. One of the best goal-scoring seasons I've ever seen. Kolarz, the most assists in the season, which was in 2038, so the year we won the Stanley Cup. He had 91 assists that season. Most points in a season was Staubitz, though. So despite Staubitz not being the all-time record leader for points, he had the best points in a season back 7 years ago. I'm saying 7 years ago. Can't do math apparently, but 128 points that year for him. That was the same year he had that 73 goals. Not a surprise on that. That was an insane year from him. Most penalty minutes in a season was 120 from Ristolainen. Then we had the most wins in a season, which was 48 from Gionta. And shutouts in a season was 8 from Gionta. So those were 2038 and 2041. In terms of rookie records, this should be interesting. Most goals in a rookie season, Eugene Dunham, of all people. That's actually kind of surprising to me, because I would have expected somebody like Staubitz or even Ristolainen to have a better rookie season in terms of goal scoring. But Staubitz, he didn't really come into his own until his last, he was better once he was 28 years old and onward. So kind of makes sense, but kind of surprising. So Dunham with that record, and that was 9 years ago. Most assists in a rookie season, Ryder Mloud with 43. Not really a surprise because he is an offensive defenseman. Most points in a rookie season, no, that's an insane one as well. I'm kind of surprised on that. 62 points from Kolarz as a rookie in 2027 was the best rookie year. So he outperformed both Ristolainen and Staubitz in his rookie season. So shout out to Matez Kolarz. I don't know if he won the Calder that year. I don't think he did, because or else I would have seen it when I looked at his stats, but I don't think he was the Calder winner. Most wins in a season from a rookie was Gionta with 43 back in 2036. And most shutouts by a rookie in his rookie season was Reid Mathers, of all people, which must be in the AHL at this point because we didn't see him on an NHL team back in 2040. He had 3 shutouts in his rookie season. And then in terms of game records, the most goals in a game all time, 2042, Staubitz had a 5-goal game. We also had Kolarz with a 5-assist game in 2040 as the most assists in a game. Ristolainen, the most points in the game, was 6. So everybody that was on that top line had a record in terms of games, which is interesting. And the most saves in a game, of course, that's one of the most perfect ways to getting close to the end of the series, is Ryan the Tower Tamerlan, the most saves in a game back in 2025, making 59 saves when we used to give up a shit ton of shots. So that's pretty awesome. So there is our records. We're not going to look at every single NHL team's records because it's just going to take too long. But in terms of NHL records all time, might as well show you guys this stuff just in case any players are up there now. Most goals in a rookie season, stuff like that. Nobody broke anything in this franchise mode, it looks like. Same with assists in a season. Points. Doesn't look like anybody up there. Dorian Sawchuk, though, the most wins in a rookie season with 49. So that guy was insane in San Jose. Not a surprise he won the Calder that year. Jason Gionta, though, actually did have one of the most wins in a rookie season with 43 in NHL history. He beat out Ken Dryden and tied Ed Belfour, so that's pretty sick. I didn't realize he was going to be up there. Shutouts. Let's see. Anybody up there for this in a rookie season? No. Obviously, that's one that's probably kind of tough to beat. But those are rookie records all time. Season records all time. I don't expect much to be broken here. Rantanen had a 95-goal season. I completely forgot about that back 16 years ago. So that's the most goals in a season in NHL history, beating out Gretzky, of course. Austin Matthews had an 86-goal season one year in this franchise mode back in 2027. Obviously, those aren't broken yet. Most points. Nope, those aren't broken. Nope. And then most wins in seasons. Marcus Morozov. I don't remember what team that goalie was on, but 51 wins in a season. Most in NHL history. Sawchuk was number 2. They both beat out Brodeur. Devin Levi actually got the tie with Holtby and Brodeur, so shout out to Devin Levi. And then career records. Let's see what got broken here. Most games played in NHL history. Kari Ristolainen. Almost those 1,900 games, which is insane. He beats out Barkov. Josiah Holtby. I don't even remember what team that guy was on but he played a long time. Kolarz was 4th all-time in games played, and Draisaitl number 5. Most games played by a goalie, I think that part might be still broken, so I'm not really going to regard that. Most NHL goals in NHL history, Austin Matthews had over 1,100 goals, almost 1,200. Draisaitl finishes 2nd. Then you have Ovechkin with 994, McKinnon with 988, and Rantanen with 904. So unfortunately, Ristolainen didn't get up to that standard, but he was very close. I'd say top 10 goal scorer of all time. Most points in an NHL career after Gretzky, Alex Barkov had 2,200 points. Draisaitl had 2,100, almost 2,200. Matthews on 2,100. Nathan McKinnon on 2,100. All right. Most assists in an entire career. Kolarz was number 2 in assist NHL all time. That's interesting. If he would have maybe had some better years sometimes, I think he could have got close to Gretzky's all-time record in assists, which I don't think is something I would thought would get broken. But he finished with more career assists than Connor McDavid, and he didn't make our channel Hall of Fame, which is kind of insane too. So maybe we should say that there was 4 inductees instead and Kolarz got it. But then if I did that, Narena had one more vote than Kolarz technically, so I don't know about that. But still kind of insane that he had that much of assists in his career. Like I said, McDavid number 3, Barkov 4, and Draisaitl 5. And then we head on over to wins. Most all time is Marc-Andre Fleury. Then it's Martin Brodeur. So Fleury beat Brodeur in this universe, which is kind of crazy. Shesterkin number 3, Patrick Wall still 4, and Andrei Vasilevsky number 5. Most shoutouts in a career, Brodeur first, Sawchuk number 2. Not as in the one in this series. Ainsworth number 3, Fleury number 4, and Glenn Hall number 5. And most 50-goal seasons, Alex Ovechkin number 1. Or not number 1, Austin Matthews number 1, Alex Ovechkin tied for 2nd with Ola Blomstrand. I do remember Ola Blomstrand, but I don't remember what team he was a part of. He was a really good goal scorer in this series, though. And then Bossy up there at 4 with Gretzky at 5. 100-point seasons, Connor McDavid had more 100-point seasons than Wayne Gretzky, 16. Gretzky finishes 2nd, Draisaitl 3, Matthew Kichchek number 4, and Barkov number 5. All right. So those are the records. I would look at everybody around the league, like I said, but it would just take way too long, so I'm not going to look at that. Now we can simulate to see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in this last season. I hope for realism's sake that it's Philadelphia again. I just wanted to make sure we actually could take a look at the record book and all that. But one last thing I want to take a look at before we see who wins the Cup is I want to see who scored our last goal, or show you guys the last goal in our team's history again. Just so you guys can remember Vasilyev for those goals, those last 2 goals we jumped in for, those last goals in this franchise mode series. Unfortunately, it was a loss, man, though. I wish we would have had a good little run at the end of it, but it is what it is. I could go to edit player and literally look at everybody's birthdays and stuff like that, but I just feel like that's just going to make this video kind of redundant. So let's get the confirmation on the Cup winner, and then we should be able to still look at the awards and see who wins awards in this last season. So let's just get that pop up again. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to look at the record book after that point. So now at least I know for my other franchise modes that I need to not simulate basically until after I look at the record book. So who's going to actually be the Cup champion in 2049 now? It'll go to Pittsburgh. Oh boy. And there's going to be some sort of person in the comments that's from Pennsylvania that's like a Flyers fan or something like that that's going to be absolutely livid. They should have won a Cup in this. We end up having to quit because we need to look at the record book. We come back. Pittsburgh ends up winning the Stanley Cup instead. So there's the last champions for the NHL and AHL. Texas won the AHL. And there is that pop-up again. All right. Final things to wrap up the series. We can't, unfortunately, take a look at the record book anymore on this point. I don't know why we can't at this point. I feel like that's a missed opportunity on EA's part. They definitely need to address that unless it's in the stats part, which it is not. Let's take a look at that last year's playoff tree. So Pittsburgh ends up sweeping the Nashville Predators in the Stanley Cup Finals. So at least we lost to the best Western Conference team. So shout out to that. Let's take a look at what Pittsburgh's stats were looking like in that last playoff run. I don't remember if they had any former players on the team. I think it was Malak actually on that team. So Malak might be a Cup champion now at least, which is good. But yeah, Pittsburgh gets it done at the end of this franchise mode. Yeah, Malak only got to play 2 games, but he now has a Stanley Cup. So shout out to Philip Malak. At least an alien goes out on top with his first cup in the last year. So there is that. How about the goalie numbers from the Penguins? Madden had a 935. Damn. So some good goaltending from Cam Madden. All right. Terms of awards. In this final season, the Pittsburgh Penguins end up being the Stanley Cup champions. Dallas won the President's Trophy. It was National Pittsburgh Cup Finals. Let's take a look at the individual awards. So Bochenski wins the Art Ross Trophy. Semin wins the Hart. Michelli wins the Norris for the second time in the last 3 years. Bochenski wins the Lady Byng. Kulttunen wins the Calder for Colorado. Eves wins the Conn Smythe for Pittsburgh. Wasn't Eves on another team that went against us? Wasn't he on Carolina? I think Eves was on Carolina. I got to take a look at Eves after this for a second, because, yeah, he was. He was, because I see him winning the Conn Smythe. That's the second Conn Smythe of the career for Eves. Eves won in 2044-45. It says he was on the Carolina Hurricanes team that beat us in the Cup Finals. I thought so. When I recognized that name, I'm like, wait a second. So Eves has won 2 Conn Smythes. That's actually kind of underrated. Beach won the Vezina trophy this season. Fernandez wins the Jennings. Fane the Masterton. Islanders coach the Jack Adams. Mendez the Selke. Semin the Lindsay. And Semin the Richard. AHLers, any awards for our AHL team in the last year? Bergfors was the best goalie in the AHL, so shout out to Bergfors there. And aside from that, he also was the Harry Hap Holmes. God damn, I can barely talk. Memorial winner, which is the best goalie in terms of goals against average. So that's interesting. All right. So those are the awards in this final season. I think that is pretty much it. Is there anything else I want to take a look at? It's kind of funny that I could take a look at morale, but I can't take a look at a record book at the end of this franchise mode still. And it still says sim to draft, but if I click that, a game will probably explode. So, and I can't even save on the screen too. I just guess I have to press save and exit. So, with that said, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode, and that's going to do it for this entire series, too. It's unfortunate it lost in the first round, but it was a lot of fun players from the series. A lot of guys that made the Channel Hall of Fame, and a lot of guys that could probably still make the Channel Hall of Fame if we decide to have them give a second opportunity to get in. But really fun series. Looking forward to, obviously, our throwback series starting on, I guess, in a few days. I hope you guys are excited for that. I'm very excited to get it started and to see where things go with that. So, send anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.